Years ago, for every one of these players, the culmination of a dream was Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. That's the place where fantasy becomes reality. For a 37-year-old goalie from Michigan, the last 2 months have been filled with heroics. Tim Thomas has carried the hopes of a team and a fan base on his shoulders to the brink of a title they've been awaiting for generations. For another netminder, the pressure continues to mount, as it did on the Olympic stage 1 year ago. The gold medal to Canada! And in what already has been a dramatic postseason run, they slayed the dragon! Game 7 goes to Vancouver! But you have to talk about dreams in Roberto Luongo and include the nightmares. Gotta get him out of there! And the embarrassing early hooks from the net, most recently just 2 nights ago. Yet now he's back where he is most comfortable. The stakes are as high as they go, and the task is to exercise a 17-year-old Game 7 demon. Vancouver lost, Hockey was a winner. Return the cup to Canada, or add to a legacy built decades ago. The Stanley Cup will be hoisted tonight after sport's most dramatic phrase. Game 7. It's next. What a goal! By one score! Its arrival was early. A more elite route than taken in 1893. White glove care. Before hands without gloves grabbed 35 pounds of silver and nickel. The Stanley Cup. Rogers Arena in Vancouver. The Bruins have waited 39 years for a championship. The Canucks, all 40 in their history, and this is a Game 7. And good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Emmerich. What a wonderful atmosphere here inside Rogers Arena tonight as we prepare for this Game 7. The most penalized series in 25 years, but yet there'll be handshakes at the end of the night. There has been chaotic action, wonderful action as well. And there's a full moon tonight and a lunar eclipse. Well, why not? As we move on to our guys, Dan Patrick and Keith Jones and Mike Milbury.
All right, Doc, thank you. For the 6th time in the last 10 years, the Stanley Cup Final comes down to a Game 7. Every kid's dream there, Mike.
Yeah, it's every kid's dream, and if the difference is when you're a kid, if you lost it, you played for a Game 7 championship the next day. For some of these guys, this is a lifetime disappointment if they don't grab the brass ring.
Everybody wants to be the hero. We all grew up wanting to be the hero in Game 7, and tonight's an opportunity for somebody to be that on one of these two teams. But somebody else could be a goat. It makes for great drama.
The last time we were in Vancouver, we were still trying to figure out this Vancouver team in this series. Here we are, Game 7. You figured them out yet?
Absolutely. They're invincible, at home anyway, and they can't win on the road. But they've got some issues. They are vulnerable. Their back-to-back scoring champions are taking it on the chin and missing open nets like this and getting abused by Captain Zdeno Chara. This has been a big story in this series. Make no mistake about it. These guys have not met the challenge of the physical play of the Bruins, nor has Roberto Luongo, at least on the road. Those were 2 terrible goals that led to the Bruins win in Game 6 and brought us here to this Game 7. The vibes feel against Vancouver.
And no team has won 3 Game 7s in a single postseason. Boston looking to change that tonight. Their assistant captain, Patrice Bergeron, spoke with our Pierre Maguire when he arrived here at the arena.
They have a lot of injuries on their team right now. What do you guys have to do to take advantage of the injury situation of the Canucks defense in particular?
Well, obviously, we've got to go hard on the body and put a puck in deep and be hard on the forward check, and we need a good start.
You came out yesterday and you did something different. You practiced last night rather than practice this morning. Do you think that'll make a difference in your start in Game 7?
Yeah, I think so. We didn't do anything. Didn't practice. Didn't go on the ice before Game 5. So I think obviously get the plain legs out of the way. Yesterday was probably a good thing.
What do you guys have to do to carry the cup out of here tonight?
You know, play our game and go out there and have fun and enjoy the moment, but at the same time be desperate and leave everything on the line.
Good luck. Have some fun tonight, Patrice.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, Pierre Jonesy, if you're looking at this situation with Boston, they've tapped into these motivational moments when they've rallied after injuries. Can you still tap into that tonight?
Absolutely, Dan. I don't think there's been a team in the National Hockey League that's been more unified than the Bruins. It started in Game 1 of this series. The bite by Burrows on Bergeron. They rallied around that. The hit by Aaron Rome on Nathan Horton. Horton out for the series. They rallied around their injured teammate. Tim Thomas criticized by Roberto Luongo. He stands on his head. And now Mark Recchi, the 43-year-old, in his last game in the National Hockey League, the Bruins will use that for motivation as well.
Well, before we wrap it up and put a bow on it for Boston, I think we got some hockey to play. And look at Roberto Luongo does not give up goals at home. He has been tremendous here in Vancouver. And Ryan Kessler, he has been hurt through this series, but watch what he did in Game 7 against Chicago. Brilliant finish and a pass to Alex Barrows. And against Nashville, a huge force. This is a night that Kessler has to shine.
As a Bruins fan told me as we left the Garden on Monday night, Boston didn't lose to the British, and we ain't losing to British Columbia either. Game 7 up next. Doc and Edzo have the call. Roberto Luongo, he shut out Boston here in Game 5. The Flint, Michigan native Tim Thomas could become only the second American-born player ever to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. Game 7 next.
Late afternoon in Vancouver. No champion in Canada since Montreal in 1993. None ever for the Canucks in their 40 years. For the Boston Bruins, it's been since 1972. Orr and Esposito and Hodge and Cheevers. These guys would like to add to that legacy in a generation of their own. And they await their goaltender, just as Vancouver does. Do the 19,000 and the rest of us in the millions see the home Luongo or the road Luongo? 3 games away, he gave up 15. 3 games at home, he only gave up 2. And he leads them out to the ice right now. Towels, a tradition that came from 1982. That year they were swept by the Islanders. They lost to Eddie Olczyk and the Rangers in 1994 in 7 games. But that was then. This is tonight. To the ice, Pierre Maguire with Ryan Kessler.
Thanks very much, Doc. Ryan, the Sedins have struggled offensively in this series. You don't have your running mate, Mason Raymond, for Game 7. How much offensive pressure is there on you to deliver tonight?
Well, we always put pressure on ourselves to help the team win and produce, and tonight's no different. I played this game 1,000 times in my driveway in Livonia, and tonight I get to live it, and I'm going to enjoy every moment of it.
They feel like they've got an injured team in Vancouver they're playing against. They want to be physical. How do you counterattack against their physical play?
We're not going to worry about that. We're going to play our game. We're going to get these fans into it. And like I said, we're going to enjoy this.
Get out there and have some fun, my friend.
Thank you.
Doc?
It's been said the sweetest sound to any man is the sound of his own name. In hockey, it's having that name etched on the Stanley Cup. None of the Canucks, only 2 of the Bruins. The night begins with patriotic anthems. Here's PA announcer John Ashbridge.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Please remove your hats. And kindly join Mr. Richard Loney in the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs burst bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing and join Mr. Mark Donnelly in the singing of "Oh Canada."
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons' command. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for
Tim Thomas, 8 goals against in his last 7 games, only 5 goals given up in 3 games here, 15 wins, 1 short of a title. Roberto Luongo reaching back for some of Friday's shutout fire, putting Monday's game on the shelf, likely. 15 wins, 1 short of a title.
Well, we heard from Ryan Kessler with Pierre Maguire, and he said he's played this game hundreds of times in his driveway back home in Livonia, Michigan. Doc, I got a chill and a lump in my throat when he said that, because there are thousands and thousands of kids and players in the National Hockey League that dream about being in this opportunity.
For Mark Recchi, this is the 189th Stanley Cup playoff game. And it could very well be his last. Can he go out a 3-time Stanley Cup winner? We get an offside 8 seconds in. Recchi started this game with Bergeron and also Brad Marchand up front. No surprise there, and no surprise that we have Pierre inside the glass. Go, man.
Thanks a lot, Doc. A lot of nervous energy on the Bruins bench, but more than we experienced in games 1, 2, and 5 on the Vancouver bench. Tremendous focus right now. Better than what we saw when they were down in Boston for games 2, games 3, and also in game 6.
Recchi won the draw away from Henrik Sedin and plopped it back in. Ehrhoff run into there by Patrice Bergeron. Recchi took over. Popped it on back. It's ladled over by Ehrhoff, giving up the boards, and Chara pinched into the half boards to get that. Slugged on by Salo, but taken to the outside again and fed across. But that outletted on now for Henrik Sedin. Captain of the team backhands it in and goes burrowing in after it. Battles there, and it's turned back along by Chara. To the back now for Alexander Edler, around behind Henrik Sedin. Chased off, and the puck stolen by Seidenberg. Slipped it on, but it is Bieksa in deep. That one hopped right near the referee, still battled for, gotten by Chara, delays and fires one off the shoulder of Marchand that can be kept by Bieksa and played behind a Burrows. Rocketed on back, Bieksa holds, fires one that deflected off a leg and hopped wide. Seidenberg there, off of Krejci. Lost by Peverley, brought on by Burrows. Daniel Sedin breaks in the drive, went scorching wide. Edler rolled it along, came back to the corner to Burrows, tucked it to the back to Bieksa. Bieksa. Flopped on off the corner boards. Daniel Sedin had it knifed away on the intercept by Seidenberg, and it slipped back out to center by Peverley.
Real good shift for the number 1 line for the Vancouver Canucks.
But Eddie, everything's to the outside. I agree territorially, but everything's to the outside. They can't penetrate against Seidenberg and Chara.
How is that based on prior games, Pierre?
Well, it's pretty much the same. That's why the Sedins and Burrows have struggled. Sedin, right, or Seidenberg and Chara, the best cycle tandem in the league when it comes to defending.
Thomas played it on. Ferentz gave it ahead. Kept at the line, and a drive by Tanoff and a save. The first one of the game for Tim Thomas. Andrew Albert sent it behind. Jeff Tambellini locked up there. He is in place of the injured Mason Raymond. Raymond en route back from Boston. Fitted for a special brace so that he could travel, but out of the lineup for the Canucks until at least late November, they say. Fractured vertebrae is the reason he's out. This is cleared back in now and banked along to Boychuk. Touched right back up the boards. Sean Thornton brings it ahead. Rugged winger bangs it right back in, and around it goes near Sammy Salo. Chopped it further and away from the pinching winger, Daniel Payet. Jabbed along now for Andrew McQuaid. Played right back up, and it skittered on to center where it is left behind, and then crunched off was Ehrhoff. Played on back, and Adam McQuaid saw it intercepted. On across now to Henson, and his shot is deflected to the glass as Caberlet stepped in.
Good pass there by Christian Ehrhoff, jumping into the play and sending in Hansen.
Thornton able to march right back up the wing. He's got Adam McQuaid, and then Thornton with a shot that's carefully sealed up by Luongo. Both goalies with a stop.
Well, Sean Thornton, I think, actually was trying to drop that puck to McQuaid, who was jumping in, as you mentioned, Doc. And we've seen a lot of this in this series, going to the net and a lot of pushing and shoving.
It's not going to stop, even though we're in Game 7. And then a little pushback at the end by Sean Thornton, going right after Rafi Torres, trying to stabilize Torres in terms of physical play.
Marchand had that one knifed away, but around comes Bergeron. Twisted a pass in front off Edler and given back up the wing, and it can be carried back out by Tanner Glass. Off the linesman, they must play further. Still battled for and punched back in, and it's Seidenberg back to get it. Zdeno Chara, 6'9", 255. Biggest man ever to play in terms of height in the NHL. This lobbed right back in again. He is number 33 in white, but he has come to the bench right now. Centering pass out in front is knifed away from Glass, and hurrying back up with it is Mark Recchi. Gave it across now for Marchand. Lots of head fakes and motoring along to the half boards. Defended there by Bieksa. Gave it on to Peverley. Peverley fed one around, and a diving play made there, and then it popped wide. Coming across and lurching at it was Luongo, and then it was sent right back across the net mouth wide. Peverley able to fling it back in, swing and a miss by Edler. Peverley marches there and got it. Touched it on now to Milan Lucic. Big winger gave it up, though, to Sammy Salo of the Vancouver defense, who flew it back down the ice. No icing here. Daniel Sedin gets there first. He's got Henrik with it. Sedin around in front. Henrik Sedin twisting, and his shot is stopped by Thomas. Sprawling in front of him was Seidenberg, and play is stopped. And do they ever like it here?
Boy, Seidenberg gets a piece of this opportunity right off his left skate, and Thomas is able to stop that puck.
Rich, Peverley puts it out front, and Roberto Luongo just denies it the last second. Luongo tracks the puck out of the corner and stays right with it and fights it off. Quality chance for David Krejci in the slot. He just can't get to it.
Sometimes you wonder how that puck doesn't go in the back of the net when people are coming, skates are there.
Albert's a shot and a pad stop by Thomas. It kicked right back in toward him, and he covers.
Eddie, home ice advantage isn't just for last change. It's about winning faceoffs, too.
Good help there from Christopher Higgins off the one faceoff there by Ryan Kessler. And as a player, you got to understand is once that puck gets back to the blue line, the defenseman's going to get it to the net. You got to get there. You can't wait for him to start shooting. Face-off win, you got to start moving to the front of the net.
And the reason why you get an advantage on home ice, you get to put your stick down last.
From the tie-up left behind by Gregory Campbell. Tangles there with Tambellini. Knifed away, though, from Christopher Higgins and guided along by Chara, then touched up the boards by Seidenberg. Tucked right back across for the fling back in by Campbell, and he comes to the bench on a change as Kessler reverses up the boards. Ryder got there, but the pass went by him. Higgins across, racing in is Kessler. Wide with the shot! Onto the back, it's Alberts. Played along by Higgins, cut by Kelly. Chris Kelly's pass is off Tyler Seguin. Stashed back on now to Kessler, who sent it back in yet again. Long tosses on the money for Ryder. Ryder marches ahead with it now. Lost there. Burrows flies it along. Glove down, kept alive by Patrice Bergeron. Set up by Luongo and passed on to Edler. Laid back ahead for Burrows. But his pass is cut and they steer back very carefully. Do you notice any nervousness, Pierre?
No, pretty good calmness right now for both teams.
The Go Canucks Go chant rings throughout Rogers Arena. This one pitched around behind now, and it is Edler. Burrows swatted it further. Kept alive and hurried back on by Bergeron. Fought for by Recchi and taken back out by Burrows again. 5.5 played in this game 7. Henrik Sedin there tried to finesse it on through, and Recchi got in his way. Played back along by Henrik Sedin and stopped behind by Thomas. 3 shots, Vancouver. 2 shots for Boston. Chara right back along. Right up the boards, it's touched on back. Ehrhoff tried to drop it further, and a shot is held. LaPierre let it go, and Tim Thomas has said no again. Want more hockey? The NHL Game Center Premium app gets you live radio broadcasts of every Stanley Cup playoff game, video highlights, and more right on your phone, exclusively from Verizon.
I think the pattern is continuing against that man right there in Vancouver. The defensemen for the Vancouver Canucks are much more active at home than they've been allowed to be in the first 3 games on the road in Boston. They're keeping plays alive. They're jumping into the play. Ehrhoff set up Hansen for that good opportunity. So if you're the Boston Bruins, you better be aware where the D are for the Vancouver Canucks.
Edler hurries one, and that carefully blocked and then shuttled back along and out to center by Adam McQuaid.
Boston's got all their players involved early on in this game, so a long bench for the Bruins. Longer than we've seen earlier in the series.
Nathan Horton, a concussed Bruin, is here. His equipment was in the locker room yesterday. Taken on by Campbell and thrown in front, and that one towed away. And then around behind it comes Campbell, tries to twist again. Still working off the back of the cage, and then it's knifed along now for Hansen.
Here's why they're going with the long bench. Ed zone dot, live legs all the time for the Bruins, trying to take the speed out of the game for Vancouver.
I think Edler got away with a cross-check as well.
Dealt in by Paille, crunches with Bieksa. Along the boards, reached there away from Sean Thornton, but he comes back to regain possession and then lost to Bieksa again. Spun across and glass to the corner. Checked there by Krejci, and it's taken then by Ehrhoff and handed on to Bieksa.
Good shift there for the Thornton-Campbell-Paille line.
Careful stop by Andrew Ferentz. Sent it along now for Johnny Boychuk. Up the boards to Salo, and its shot went wide over the shoulder of Thomas.
They keep shooting high on Tim Thomas, but they're missing the net. They got to start hitting the net if they want to score on the Vancouver side.
Ferentz flopped it on. It skittered through Lucic and is blasted back along, and everyone looking for the moment, but taken then by Henrik Sedin and laid on back. Right back up the wing to Alex Burrows again. Here's Burrows holding. That one tipped to Daniel Sedin. Backhander. Oh, and Thomas reaching behind. Apparently he's got it. The whistle blown, and play is stopped. Later on tonight, he may chuckle and say, I had it all the way. No score, first period. Welcome back to the NHL Stanley Cup Final on NBC, presented by Geico. This was just a moment ago. Mason Raymond has arrived on his trip from a hospital in Boston.
Just like the reaction Nathan Horton got in Game 6 in Boston. The hometown crowd, and great to see Mason Raymond back up and obviously wearing that brace with the cracked vertebrae from that hit from Johnny Boychuk 20 seconds into Game 6.
We mentioned Horton's equipment. He is here as well. And undoubtedly, they'll be in the handshakes after. Kessler with a shot blocked down by Seidenberg. Seidenberg with a good crunch on Kessler. Funneled through again, and this is Higgins working his way in front. Still pulls the trigger on a pass, and that one knocked away. Higgins again, and that one blocked behind. Feverish play back in the Bruins' end. Oh, and stepped into was Recchi by Salo. Hurried to the corner off a Bruin stick. Seidenberg has it punched along. Tambolini tries to take and cannot. Ricochets out. Quick play. Kessler has shot. And getting a piece of it was Thomas. It is Chara again. Run into by a pair. It squirts loose for Mark Recchi. 43-year-old winger able to accelerate right back out to center. Crisscrosses there with Marchand and brings it on. Drop to Marchand. Waits. Gives back. Boychuk, a shot went well wide. Hopped right back out in front and can be played again by Vancouver. 8.5 minutes gone. First period of play. Game 7. No score. Canceling the icing is Daniel Sedin. Got it to Henrik Sedin. The identical twins are out there. Thrown back on to Daniel Sedin, but the pass was a weak one up the boards. Tyler Seguin, the rookie, gets it and pushes to center.
Advantage Vancouver right now with no Seidenberg or Chara on the ice. The Kessler line did a good job of hemming them in their own zone.
Changing on the fly right now to get Chara and Seidenberg out, and they've made the change successfully.
These two guys that we are hearing as analysts are former coaches, and so they watch for that sort of thing. I'm sure glad. Here's Bieksa pushing it back in, and Chara and Seidenberg will go back for it. Tim Thomas sets it up for the big man from Slovakia. Captain of the Bruins, who may be hoisting the Stanley Cup tonight. Or will it be Henrik Sedin out of Sweden for Vancouver?
Beautiful pass there by Ryan Kessler, who's been outstanding early in this game. And Christopher Higgins with a great chance, and Tim Thomas denies. Wasn't able to take this puck hard to the net because there was traffic staying right in front.
Look at Thomas's head. He's just focused right in on the puck. He's not worried about Tambolini because he knows he's going to get help from his defense.
Battled for on the boards and kept there. Held by Hansen. Drubbed back along, and Chara with the prevailing reach there ties up with Rafi Torres, a hero in game number 1. Brought on now by Krejci and lobbed back on for Seguin to peel off, and then it's led across to Seidenberg. Seidenberg banked it ahead off Krejci's stick, and then he was pounded by Andrew Alberts. Nearing the halfway point of the first period. It is Torres tapping it on back. Laid back up the wing, and he can take it. Rafi Torres ahead, connects back on LaPierre, faked the drive, tried to slip it through. Adam McQuaid said no and played it to the corner, and then gets it on the bounce back. Now Krejci, and then on back for Caberlet. Booted along by Peverly. Little trouble there for the defense of Edler, but coming by and starting back up with it is Tanner Glass. Off the stick of Oreskovic. Notre Dame product played it back ahead. Glass flings it further, and then it's sent behind for Caberlet. Up the boards can be brought back out by Daniel Paille. Ex-Buffalo Sabre trickled it back in and went to get it, but it's Glass to play it there. Then along to Edler, run into by Paille, and he goes down, and it's fed back along for Sean Thornton. Played back on to Paille, around in front, and a save made by Luongo, is trying to deflect, was Campbell.
2 times in a row, Edler's had a tough time with the puck. He's playing with a severely injured hand. I won't tell you which one, but it's severely injured. He can't handle the puck.
This is right out in front and controlled yet again to the outside, led back. Boychuk a shot, and that went off a prone Glass. Worked on by Marchand. Cannot play further, but wedging his way in is Campbell. What a battle with Tambolini. Little extra shoulder came from Bieksa. Marchand worked on there and closed off by Tambolini. Then Marchand laid it to the back. Nice keep there and a hold and a drive by Ferentz, and that deflected wide. Came back along now for Thornton. Hip check down, played right back to him again. Duels again with Bieksa. Hold by Malhotra, but it's taken by Marchand. Marchand fed one all the way back. Up with it is Boychuk, and Boychuk angles one to the corner, ducking out of the way as the referee as it's played by Marchand. Marchand laid it on a cross. Here's Recchi trying to escape. Campbell goes to the corner. He shoulders with Bieksa and goes down. Recchi can't make a play. Attack met by resistance all over the ice. 8 1/4 to go, scoreless first. Mark Recchi dropped it on back. Gave it then to Caberlet. Native of the Czech Republic sent that one ahead. It hit off the shelf and is played back out again off of Recchi. Second time, he was able to stoke it ahead, but quickly flung across to Sammy Salo.
Another outstanding shift for the fourth line for the Bruins.
Michael Ryder escapes. Ryder to the corner. Run off there by Hansen, and he can start it right back up to Higgins. Carried on by Kessler. Flung back to Higgins again. Higgins with a pass. Kessler in front. It came across for Ehrhoff. Banked on back, and it hopped to the Bruins, and it's played on out by Peverly. More changes in lines per team. Punched along further by Chara, taken by Peverly, carried in, and worked on there by Lucic. Lucic able to throw it back, but it went away from Seidenberg. Both of these guys are playing on a different side than normal. Chara controls there. Away from the forechecking of Henrik Sedin. It's punched onto center where Alberts has to contend with a couple of Bruins. It slipped on back where Alberts recovers and hands it on across.
That broken stick you saw in behind Tim Thomas was Ryan Kessler's. It got knocked out of his hand on that last rush for the Canucks. But I think the referees have sent the message. They're not going to call it overly tight.
Worked on now by LaPierre. LaPierre glides around behind. Ferentz on him, and Ferentz is able to play it further and then is run into by Hansen. Stephen Walkham and Dan O'Halloran are the referees. The last time they worked a Game 7 was Boston-Tampa Bay, and there were no penalties that night. This one tripped on back, and it is Ferentz there, but taken by LaPierre. LaPierre sent one in front, and a good checking job done by Kelly. Lays it back ahead now for Sagan. Tyler Sagan flopped it back in. Luongo out with a big goal stick to hook it around for Sammy Salo. That one escapes back down, but there'll be no icing here. Virtually non-stop play, 6 shots to 4 in favor of the Canucks. Twisted along by Adam McQuaid. Caberly got there, tried to play it further, and it hopped off of Paille, but he recovers and stiffly plays it on to Adam McQuaid. Played back down by McQuaid, and this will go for an icing to stop the clock with 5:55 to go in a scoreless first period.
We'll talk about the pinching defenseman for the Vancouver Canucks. Here's the play by Chris Stan, but he's only able to make this because he has support coming back, and this is the aggressiveness I've been talking about. There's Jannik Hansen, perfect position. There's that trust factor, but the Boston Bruins have to be aware when that puck is coming up the board slow, expect the defenseman to come down. That puck's got to get out if you're Boston.
Cut off by Burrows, knocked down by Thornton, puck underneath, and it squibs loose and is played on to Thornton by McQuaid. Flown back in. Edler with a little trouble there. Paille on him, but he recovered to play it back to the safety of center ice. Bergeron wants to start ahead, but he has to wait till his teammate Paille gets onside. Shift change now for Boston. Seidenberg with one into the catching glove of Roberto Luongo. There have been 10 shots that have been on goal. More than 10 hits in this game, and it is scoreless. Time now for Edward Jones FaceTime. Pierre is with Vancouver coach Alain Vigneault.
No Mason Raymond. So far, you happy with the way your team has responded?
Yeah, I mean, both teams are skating real hard and working real hard right now. It's been a good start, and hopefully we can continue.
Why is your team so much more aggressive here in Vancouver than when you're playing in Boston?
It's tough to answer, but at the end of the day, we worked all year long to get home ice. We got it, and we got to make it work.
Thanks for doing this, Alain.
My pleasure, Pierre.
Offensive zone faceoff is won by the Bruins. Twirling to the outside is Marchand. Some weaving in front of Luongo. And a feed in front. They score! A lot of traffic in front, and Patrice Bergeron has gotten the first goal of the game.
And Eddie, this is a double whammy because it's against the Sedins and Burrows. Right off a TV timeout, and Marchand does a great job working on Salo, and he exploits him.
Well, this was off a face-off win for the Vancouver Canucks. Brad Marchand does a great job of buying some time, a little soft pass. I'm not sure if that's for Mark Recchi or not, but the Canucks won the face-off, and the Bruins score a goal.
Salo couldn't close the gap very quickly because of the buying of time by Marchand. Look at that time and space. Right onto the right-handed shooting Bergeron stick. 1-0 Boston.
Little time for Luongo to react. So many bodies.
It seems now like such a long time ago, but Bergeron was an injured party in these playoffs too. Up the boards, it's tipped back out by Sean Thornton. They had traffic going in front of Luongo. That's what teams traditionally say they want to do in front of any goaltender. This came along now for Campbell to pop back high. Bieksa closed off behind. Campbell could not reach. Tanner Glass with it there. Those who research these things would want me to mention that the scorer of the first goal in the previous 6 games of this series have won the game. Canucks start ahead. Directed right back on for Tambellini. Crossover move in front of the shot. Oh, and Thomas with a save. For a brief microsecond, it was 2 alone. But Tim Thomas was there. It is 1-0 Boston.
face-off, such an important part. The Vancouver Canucks actually win this draw, but watch the hustle by Brad Marchand. He wins the foot battle. That can't happen if you're the Vancouver Canucks. Somebody's got to saw him off and not allow him to get to that puck. What happens? Marchand to Bergeron, 1-0 lead.
And a nice push by Vancouver. Stretch pass. Jeff Tambellini one-on-one with Ferentz. Gives it over to Kessler, and Timmy Thomas with that linebacker-type mentality diving out and shutting it down. Bergeron making it 1-0 Boston off that slick feed by Marchand.
Ryan Kessler's got it going on for the Vancouver Canucks. He is skating really well.
You could tell before the game, couldn't you, Ian Doc? Just how he was talking to me, he was so plugged in. He was ready to rock.
Well, it was one of those sets of words that just sort of grab you and you say, isn't this terrific that these guys feel this way?
The pureness, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly, take you back to your roots, and especially in a moment like this.
So here's Kessler. Right now it goes in the book as Bergeron's fifth from Marchand. At 14:37 elapsed time. Milan Lucic brings it on. Native of East Vancouver played it back in, and around it comes now for the play by Tanev. Christopher Tanev led it across. Directed onto center, settled down by Mark Recchi, and played right back in again. So Luongo yet again. And Tanev by Recchi, and carried out by Henrik Sedin. Tried to reach twin brother Daniel, no luck. Directed onto Marchand by Chara. Marchand stepped by one. Aggressive wingers saw it go to Recchi. Marchand trying to plow his way into the corner. It's touched around just away from him. Good close off on him by Andrew Alberts. Played across by Henrik Sedin and knifed down, and then played by a high stick by Rafi Torres. Saturday, June the 25th, don't miss reigning champion Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, and more in tennis's ultimate test of excellence, the Championships Wimbledon, part of NBC Sports Championship season, coming Saturday, June 25th on NBC, where we have the best of anything that involves nets, and sometimes hard hits and roughness and charging, and golf, and the cheval horse racing. Well, anyway, played ahead now for Michael Reiter. Reiter with a shot that went wide. Towed it up much as he did for the Hamilton Bulldogs and ended a game in the American League in 4 overtimes. Longest one they have had in that circuit.
Eddie, did this miss by much? Roberto Luongo looked like he lost it.
I think it was a little bit far outside there, Pierre. Should get a really good look here. I think he might have picked it up a little late after it got by Christian Ehrhoff, but a good idea there by Michael Reiter. I love how he changes the angle and gives the goaltender Luongo something to think about. Right.
Kicked across, Johnny Boychuk filtered it on through for the Bruins, thrown back in by Rich Peverley. Hooked along by Luongo, touched back out again by Pieksa, and down for an icing touch-up. The shots are 7-5 Vancouver. The Bruins have scored on 5 of their last 13 on Roberto Luongo.
Pierre, since that goal by Patrice Bergeron, what's the sense down there right now, especially on the Vancouver bench? You seen any change?
They're much more quiet on the Vancouver bench. On the Boston bench, a little bit more energy, a lot more discussion, and guys are helping one another in terms of the changes. We've got a glass problem down to the right of Roberto Luongo, so we've got some time for Luongo to calm himself down, and for Vancouver, pretty quiet bench right now, Eddie and Doc.
Later tonight, Jay welcomes Blake Shelton from NBC's hit show The Voice to The Tonight Show. And live Tuesday night at 9, 8 Central, it's the semifinals of The Voice right here on NBC. From the tie-up, it is Sagan. Pieksa with the bear hug. Pulling free, it's a pass to Reiter, and the shot deflected high. Everyone looking and sparring for it. Ehrhoff comes by and gives it across to Pieksa, who shakes it back out of harm's way. Another fire wagon change for the Canucks. Kelly dropped it back in and got out of the way of the freight train named Alberts. Sagan dueling, got it onto Reiter, hammered by Alberts. Puck squirted loose in front, and Tanev gets it there. Then Oreskovich, then back out off a glove. And out of play. 2 minutes even to go.
The fact that man's even playing is unbelievable, Eddie and Doc. Manny Malhotra's career almost ended because of severe eye injury. That's being hit with a puck in the eye. The fact he's even back playing is amazing.
Yeah, back in March, regular season game. Very inspirational and great to see a guy that has done so much both on and off the ice get an opportunity in the Stanley Cup final.
It is Paille bringing it right back in. Got it onto Campbell, touched it over for Thornton, but a good back check was done there by Tanner Glass. Laid on back further now for McQuaid. One of the great gentlemen of this sport, Manny Malhotra. And the swelling has gone down remarkably, protected by the face shield that you saw. This is Alberts. Off of Boychuk. 1:25 to go in the first period. Boychuk jabbed it behind, can be played further now. Laid back out by Andrew Ferentz and back down where Marchand goes hustling with Salo. Salo got there, and thus the icing.
Good hustle there by Sammy Salo to negate that icing.
That's a tough call. Marchand actually made contact with the puck, but they're deeming he made contact on the wrong side of center ice. The hustle part is right, and so on Salo, he just beats Marchand to the puck. But I really believe Marchand didn't think it was going to be icing. That's why he changed his positioning.
Yeah, I think the right call was made. I think what he was trying to do was just kind of put it in behind Sammy Salo to force him to turn and go back for a puck.
That's why Dan O'Halloran's over explaining it to Claude Julien. The entire Bruins bench thought it was not icing.
Off this tie-up, Henrik Sedin with it. Pulls his way to the front. Short side try was shut off by Thomas. Daniel Sedin goes down. Burrows comes by. Boychuk prevails. Bergeron gave it up to Marchand, and he's able to hand it across to Ferentz. The announcement for the final minute just made. Laid back in now by Ferentz, and along to play is Recchi. Sammy Salo canceled him out. Recchi goes fighting back for it, though. And out of a four-man scrum, Bergeron reaching in. Down to the ice, Ehrhoff. From his knees, played it through, and Salo is able to start it back the other way, just banking one to center. Seidenberg, the German-born defenseman, laid it back across, and offside is called. Coming up in the Pizza Hut Intermission Report, Mike and Keith and Dan with their favorite plays from the first. Plus, how would Boston respond to winning their first Stanley Cup since Orr and Esposito roamed the old Boston Garden, along with a number of rodents we understand. That's ahead on the Pizza Hut Intermission Report.
I remember once being in there, we killed a mouse, put it in someone's skate.
Oh, nice.
Eddie, I'm sure you've got some good stories from there, too.
They actually named a couple of them that were regulars that they saw at the back entrance of the old place, but it had a lot of character. And people in New England just swear by the fun that they had going to their very first game.
When you were a young guy, you got certain seats in locker rooms. And there, the old Chicago Stadium and the Boston Garden, you had a unique seat in the particular locker room where you saw everything.
Tambellini connects across. Bieksa brings it on, slips it through, punched away by Thomas, and flicked along by Krejci. And we get a stoppage of play, and what have we?
Higgins hit Chara behind the play and knocked Chara right down. And Chara had a tough time getting up. You'll see number 20, Christopher Higgins, go right after 33. Thanks, Edzo. And watch Chara.
Both players were looking where the puck was coming from. They're both looking. I mean, this is an innocent play where players are looking back to see where the puck is coming. Two guys looking out into the night and collide right at the blue line.
Vino wanted to make sure the faceoff was inside the Boston zone. And now Dan O'Halloran's going to have to go talk to Doug Huda, who changes his defenseman.
Was that offside, Pierre, or was they blew the whistle because Chara was hurt?
They blew the whistle, I believe, because Chara was hurt.
He can't stay out there then.
That's right. But the trainer did not come out. Now Chara's coming off. The referees just came over, and that's why Chara's coming off.
An alert call by our coaches, Pierre and Eddie. Waved out of the face-off. Campbell. Coming in is Kelly.
Three centermen on the ice for Boston. Bergeron, Campbell, and Kelly.
From the tie-up, it comes on to Campbell. Flicked back, though, by Henrik Sedin and touched on across. Here's Bieksa firing one, and his stub shot is followed up in a backhander, and the horn will go to end the first period of play. 8 shots Vancouver, 5 Boston. Bergeron, his 5th of the playoffs from Marchand at 14:37, the only scoring play. Stay tuned as Dan Patrick, Mike Milbury, and Keith Jones bring you the Pizza Hut intermission report from right here in Vancouver after these messages. 1-0 Boston going into period 2. Miller Lite presents Taste Greatness. 5 championships for the Boston Bruins in their history. The first one was the 3rd one, at which time the NHL had possession of the Stanley Cup. And of course the one that is remembered by so many people in 1970 and then in 1972. You do not notice a captain's C on Johnny Busick. They had no designated captain at that time, but he was really the key man in terms of leadership and in those responsibilities. So here we go. Bergeron is the only goal scorer. Second period face-off about to begin. No carryover penalties nor power plays, none in the game. In the days of Busick and Esposito and Orr, there was an organist. That was the music. Lifted along and that all the way back down, and it will go for an icing, and they sold as a season ticket the organ bench at Boston Garden. Inside the glass, here's Pierre.
One of the things we saw in the first period, both Dan O'Halloran and Stephen Walkom putting their whistles away. It's very apparent. You see that slash on Ryan Kessler, the graphic evidence of the broken stick. Christopher Higgins runs over Zdeno Chara, so he can't defend. Both of those, I believe, would have been penalties earlier in this series. They haven't been tonight.
Boychuk swung it over. Ferentz with a shot. Rattled around off of Lucic in front. And then is played back up the half boards, pinching along as Ferentz, keeping play alive again. Lucic is bodied there. Led on to Krejci. Punched on back for the hold by Peverley, who was the surrogate defenseman. Fired back around again, and Higgins touches one that goes by Kessler and back down. And will be an icing. No. Cut off. Kessler is shot. And that one blocked off to the corner. It went off the linesman, didn't it?
Yes, it did, Doc.
Well, that is unusual. He was back to whistle the icing and then wound up with the puck glancing off him. Knifed on now for Kessler, and Kessler with a long pass. Will this be more conventional and less painful? Yes. 1:01 gone in the second, 1-0 Bruins.
Well, it's Jean Morin, and Doc, you're talking about it. He's going to be making a beeline for the front of the net, thinking to make the call, and then Tambellini does a great job. He takes the shot, and there's the linesman standing right in front of Tim Thomas.
He's not supposed to be there. I mean, he's got to eye that up, but he's not supposed to be in that position, is he, Eddie?
No, absolutely not. And you know what he's trying to do is get a good vantage point of where that is, but give Tambellini credit. Great speed, negate the icing.
Marchand dips the shoulder, walks in front, hit the post with the shot. Rushed right back out again by Bieksa. Off of Bergeron. Brought back in by Marchand, stymied by Daniel Sedin, so it can be played by Edler.
He's having a real tough time with the puck. Look at the Bruins on him hard.
All the injuries are secret, but it is no secret, as Pierre mentioned, that
that's too many men on the ice. Sorry, Doc.
That's all right. Here's Bieksa's shot, and that glove by Thomas.
Well, we saw Mike Milbury and Keith Jones talking about certain individuals in that first period. Sean Thornton, and here's Brad Marchand. Look at the move there. Little stutter step around Alex Edler. Luongo down. He goes short side right off the post. But the change of speed threw Edler off, and then Marchand was able to take the puck to the net.
See the tape on his left glove? That's one of the reasons why he can't be overly physical, and that's why he's having a tough time moving the puck.
Here's Daniel Sedin, trickling one in front. Henrik Sedin with that to the back. Albert's a shot. It's deflected wide. Tanev with it there. Rattled around behind. Daniel Sedin tucked it in front off Burrow's stick. Tanev up with it again. Swings it on a cross. Held there by Alberts. Flopped around behind. Daniel Sedin tapped it to the corner for Henrik, but instead it's Kelly. Then sent around behind. Daniel Sedin waiting again. Helped it on back to Tanev. Rattled it off the boards behind. Tipped on by Henrik Sedin. Alberts dumped it behind. Henrik Sedin with it there. Backhanded one that's held at the side of the net, and Thomas is there. Fans are standing at that end. The whistle is blown, and the faceoff is signaled near Thomas.
And the puck didn't go in.
It is easy to see with your heart and not your eyes if you have paid the price of admission and sit there.
Well, the big line working down low, finally getting that puck to the front of the net. Sedin, Burrows in front. There's Alex Burrows standing in front. Just unfortunately a little bit too deep with the puck rolling on edge up and over his stick.
Trying to force feed the puck out front. Henrik Sedin from down low. Burrows jabbing away, but that puck never crossed the line on Tim Thomas.
Kessler helps it to the back. Swung off of Thomas from the deep corner. Played along by Krejci. Well, you guys have mentioned Kessler a number of times and how focused he seems and how hard driving he is. He was the one that tried that bad angle shot. This one is tipped up into the mesh, and so with 2:29 gone in the second, it is still 1-0 in favor of Boston on Bergeron's goal.
You got to fight for every inch of ice in this game right now. This is a big game for big men right now. This is not a small little scooter game. And that's the way Boston wants to play it. Vancouver wants to play it a high octane. Boston wants to keep it in a congestion type situation, and they're succeeding at it.
So far in the series, it's been the opposite. When the games have been low scoring, tight defending, Vancouver has won. When the Boston Bruins have pushed the pace and played that wide open type of game hard, they've dominated.
Agreed.
Bruins are shotless since they scored the goal at 14:37 of the first period. Misfire for Hansen. Good check by Torres on McQuaid. McQuaid able to bounce off that and push it back up for Peverley. Couldn't chop it by. Still battling, though. Help came from McQuaid yet again. Off Peverley to McQuaid, then Peverley. And this time they can carry it out. Rich Peverley moving ahead. Has Krejci breaking, but that one is deflected across and touched on back by LaPierre. They continue to work. Lucic got up. Got it on to Krejci. Leading scorer in the series and in the playoffs. Krejci pushed it around. Lucic cannot play it there. Bieksa, tough man on him. Meanwhile, up the board, swung off the back of the cage by Sean Thornton, who was out there. Seidenberg roughed up by Torres. Reaching in is Edler. Edler had it knocked off his stick, and then he recovered to get it out to center, and then it's pushed right back through him and set up by Luongo with a little twisting motion off the glass. Pinching in his pie. He got away from Bieksa. Centered in front, it ricocheted off Luongo and off of Campbell. He tries to send it in front and can't. Edler with more trouble there. Help came from Daniel Sedin, who pushed it on out. Carried on by Henrik Sedin and sent through Chara, the 233s to the corner. The glass is still shaking from the shove. Campbell sent it around. Thornton to get it there. Fourth liners, the rugged guys are out there for the Bruins. A little twisting motion, and so Thomas has to paddle to Chara, and then Paille to Campbell. Back up they bring it. 3 men back for Vancouver. 3 on the attack for Boston. Paille pushed it behind, taken along by Tanev. Laid along, and Boychuk has it. Here's Boychuk shooting one, and that blocked down in front. Pushed along by Bergeron. Touched on further past Recchi for Boychuk again. This one careened around to Henrik Sedin. Shoulder into him by Paille. Shaken on back to center, and a very careful block by Ferentz. Over 4.5 played in the second period. The shots are 12-5 Vancouver in this period, 4-0. Henrik Sedin sees this one carried to the corner by Bergeron. Back up now for Tambellini. Followed up by Henrik Sedin and given on a cross where Alberts hooks it high. Glove down by Boychuk. Rifled on back to Marchand, who gains the zone. Marchand holding, shooting one that's blocked right back off of Tanev. Tanev able to recover this one, though. Tanev sailed it off the boards, booted along by Ferentz. Good hand-eye coordination. Forces Tanev back again. Has Kessler peeling off, lays a little pass to Tambellini, moves up with Kessler, and got it to him. Here's Kessler with a shot that's held by Thomas.
Beautiful pass there by Jeff Tambellini to get the puck to Ryan Kessler.
Alexander Edler, we talk about him having a tough time with the puck tonight, and the Bruins are aware of it. Watch how quickly they close the gap on him. He's turning pucks over. He's reaching out. No strength on his lower hand on his stick, and that's one of the in-series adjustments you make as a coach. You break the opposition down, you realize injuries and tendencies, and then you attack them.
Malhotra on the face-off with Peverley. Off the tie-up. Oreskovich had that one knocked away. Played on by the Bruins and carried out by Kelly. Kelly flopped it back in. When we get a moment, I want you as a longtime centerman, Eddie Olczyk, to talk about what those conversations are like and about down there that we just saw between Peverley and the linesman. Not word for word, but just what the whole subject was. Meanwhile, centering pass out in front, overskated by a pair and taken along by Malhotra.
Just working the linesman, making sure it's a fair 50-50 face-off.
Caberly goes to the corner for this one. Brushed it around, right up the boards to Ryder. Shift changes on for the Canucks. Michael Ryder brought it ahead, sailed it around behind Luongo to get it there. Careful play, comes back to Edler. Nice firm pass on for Bieksa, jousted further by Oreskovich, but marched right back now by Krejci, and a big drive went wide. Punched out by Oreskovich, thrown right back in again by Ferentz. 6.5 played in the second period. Tipped by Oreskovich. Kessler right there. Brushed it one-handedly on ahead for Higgins. Drops it to Kessler. And that one is cut off. Good defensive work by Peverley. Taken by Higgins. And a save made by Thomas. Kept again. Kessler, a shot that's deflected to the corner by Ferentz. Thrown across the net mouth wide. Gathered in by Krejci. Lays it ahead to Lucic. Nudges it on to Peverley. Peverley motioning now to the outside. Peverley holding. Drifting and shooting one. Blocked off by Luongo. The first Bruins shot. Carried ahead now by Alex Burrows and forced back into the corner. The hit by Burrows was on Seidenberg. Rifled right back across, and Paille has to hold up to get it and touched it back in for Campbell. Campbell spun one, and a careful block of that by Luongo. Again, it's filtered ahead for the carry back out. On with this and drifting Henrik Sedin. Threw one on a cross. Daniel Sedin had that one blocked away. And a good reach that time by Chara. Carried back on by Campbell. And Campbell with a shot out of the glove of Luongo. Hooks it back in, and he hangs on. Collisions all over the ice. 21 shots, 50 hits.
I know this is a leading scorer in the National Hockey League in the regular season, but Daniel Sedin's job here is to get out to the defenseman. But he's got to run a little pick on Brad Marchand. You just cannot allow Marchand to go right by you. You got to get a stick. You got to get a body on him. It's the little things right now for Daniel Sedin. One hands up, happening, 1-0. And the same thing at the end of the period. Hold up. Interfere with Gregory Campbell. You cannot allow him to go by you that easily. Who gets the puck? The Boston Bruins. Daniel Sedin has to simplify his game. I don't see he needs to get involved physically, like to beat people, but he's got to get his body involved, and then good things will happen.
Salo along to Ehrhoff. Punched across and fed by Hansen. Along for Malhotra, and that shot was tipped wide. Hustling to the bench now, and it changes Malhotra. Touched on now for Marchand. Waited and dropped it on back further. Caberlet with the careful pass. Marchand ahead. Could not swagger through the defense of Salo. Salo soccered that one back in.
Good play there by Sammy Salo, but Brad Marchand's got to make sure that puck's got to be off the glass in behind the Vancouver defenseman.
Thomas Caberlet brings it ahead. Given back up the wing. Bergeron there, and a shot deflected well wide. Daniel Sedin takes over there. Took a swat from Marchand, just a love tap as he was coming to the bench. That one pinballed back out again, and so it must be rescued by Henrik Sedin. Henrik backhands one that skitters to the corner after it is Seidenberg. Seidenberg moved in, run into by Burrows. Meanwhile, it's Chara having time, but that deflected right out in front. Burrows holds and shot one, blocked by Chara. And controlled back and thrown out by the Bruins.
What a great play there by Zdeno Chara. He's the one that had the turnover. Alex Burrows, great patience to hold, get Thomas out of the net, and Chara stopped the goal.
This is Ryder bringing it back and a shot. He pulled the trigger and did not get much except a blank. Meanwhile, it is Edler trying to kick it along, but taken on now by Ryder. Ryder pivots, closed off by Edler, came right back for some more, though, and then close quarters to Lucic, and then around behind to Ryder again. Ryder has Ferentz right to him for the shot that skipped wide. Lucic up with it there. Lucic had it touched away by Kessler. Kessler doubles back and while falling played it, but Kelly anticipated, got it to Ryder, touched it onto the point. Let it cross now to Ferentz. Ferentz with a shot that went wide. Ryder goes to get that one, helped it on back. A shot by Boychuk, pinball back out to center, and is rifled back in by Ferentz.
Boy, Jeff Tambellini made a really good play in his own zone to deny Michael Ryder a high-quality scoring chance.
Halfway through regulation time. Shots are 14-8 in favor of the Canucks. But the Bruins lead the game on Patrice Bergeron's goal, 1-0. Racing by was Sagan, could not get by, but it's cleared along, and Campbell lifted it off Sagan. Roughed up by Alberts, but he gives it across, and a shot by Caberlet bounced back. Another try, and that deflected to the glass by Tanev, and back at center where Adam McQuaid must play.
Nice little play there by Sagan to get the puck back to Caberlet.
Christopher Tanev with a pass that's deflected on by Oreskovich, overskated by Malhotra, and touched out. Campbell must double back. Caberlet yet again. Back on now to Paille. He flopped it back in. Thornton is after that one. Alberts trying to finesse it through Thornton. Help arrived and Tanev sent it back ahead. And all of this is offside. This is the NHL Stanley Cup Final on NBC, presented by Geico. Burrows the chance and Chara the save. Time now for Edward Jones FaceTime. Pierre is with Boston coach Claude Julien.
Your fourth line's getting elevated minutes right now. Was that part of the plan coming in so you had live legs?
Well, when you look at what they've done so far, they spent a lot of time in the offensive zone. They're doing a lot of forechecking and keeping that puck in deep. So I think we've got an opportunity here to use our depth a little bit and keep our guys fresh for the whole game.
When you think about getting the matchup, obviously the long change, is that something you're going to still do against Sedin, and Burrows?
Well, it's obviously tougher, but we're trying to get the right matchup, and sometimes we're putting one defenseman from each pair here and trying to get that done.
Thanks, Claude.
Okay, thank you.
That's the game within the game. And the opportunity for Alex Burrows, the giveaway by Zdeno Chara, and there you see the stop. Off the left knee. What a chance, and that's what you have to do against Tim Thomas, is have patience with the puck, get him out of his net. The big man was in front and made a save.
It's fitting that Tim Thomas has a hit in the game. Here is Sagan coming back in, and Sagan with a shot that's wide. I should say a hit in the series, and Chara has a save. Versatile, as they say up here. This one angled back, and it goes away from Hansen and back down, and there'll be an icing touch-up. Nope, it's canceled. Rattled right back on now for a play to be made by Bergeron off a glass support and back out again. The follow-up from Michael Ryder. Getting a piece of that one was Luongo, and a strong save by him. Ryder got it back onto Bergeron, trying to swagger away from Bieksa. More changes for the Bruins, and Mark Recchi pumps it behind. Marchand with it there. Marchand doubled back. Bieksa in the way. Send it back to Seidenberg. A shot! Save Luongo. Rebound. It bounces all around. Reaching Luongo, but a wraparound attempt by Marchand. He scores! Marchand! And it's 2-0.
Eddie, this is all off a bad change by Vancouver. It allowed Michael Ryder easy access into the zone. Bad change by Vancouver, and then domination with the live legs for Boston.
Boy, the puck is finding Brad Marchand. Look at him. He moves the puck back, and look where he goes. He goes right to the front of the net. Kevin Bieksa gets the puck taken off of him. Luongo out. He collides with Sedin in front of the net, and Patrice Bergeron is there as well.
Luongo puts it in his net.
Sure did.
He puts it in on his own.
Wow. The 10th goal of the playoffs for the rookie Marchand. The last rookie to get 10 was Jeremy Roenick in 1990. This is cranked right back in, and Boychuk does that. That is the lead in the longtime franchise history for the Bruins for a rookie. 10 goals in a playoff. Shot is trapped and held by Tim Thomas from Higgins' stick.
This play all happens. Now the Boston Bruins are off. Stop it right here. The puck is right here. Their bench is on the wrong side of the blue line. But watch the play right there by Tyler Seguin. He jumps on onside. Michael Ryder gets this play alive, and the Boston Bruins never have to come back out and tag. The smart play there by Tyler Seguin allowed the Bruins to score the second goal of the game.
Kessler tries to battle with Bergeron. Seidenberg rocking Higgins. Bergeron gets in his way. It's dragged on by Recchi. Handed out to Tambellini, but at center.
Sloppy change there, too. That's how you see all the Vancouver players chasing.
Racing ahead is Recchi. Here's Recchi trying to get by. Drags it in front. Oh, and he couldn't shove it by. And then he goes skidding on his back to the corner. Seguin with that. Recchi, the secondary assist. Bergeron, the primary on the goal by Marchand that made it 2-0. Here's Hansen dragging it back. And a shot was blocked down from Torres' stick by Ferentz.
Are those young legs of Recchi? What a great chance.
You sure he's 43?
Gives us all hope, doesn't he? Here's LaPierre twisting to the outside. Alberts threw one into the catching glove of Tim Thomas, and play is stopped.
Talking about being shot out of a cannon. What a beautiful little move there on Christian Ehrhoff, and he's going to put this puck into the back of the net. I think we've seen that airborne Boston Bruin before. Very similar to the goal Bobby Orr scored. The statue sitting out of TD Garden back in Boston. What a chance for Recchi.
Okay, so does Krejci talk to the linesman here? Or does Henrik Sedin? Neither one.
There's that advantage that Pierre was talking about where the visitor has to put his stick in first, but Henrik Sedin anticipating the drop of the linesman. Face-off win advantage there for Krejci.
Punched along by Lucic. Swept by Daniel Sedin, but then sent ahead off of the defense. Krejci, second effort, and a strong one by Bieksa. On its center, closed off was Krejci, thrown back in by Lucic, and he goes right in after it with Bieksa. They continue to battle, and it's Lucic with it on the kick from Bieksa. Bieksa prevailed.
Somebody's got to make a play for the Vancouver Canucks, and I'm not even talking about scoring a goal. Somebody's got to draw a penalty. Haven't had a penalty yet. Somebody's got to draw a penalty, give yourself a chance on a power play.
This is Thornton. The big house of 18,860. Largely quiet right now. Occasionally they pick up the chant, but otherwise quiet. Governed by the scoreboard, I'm sure. Thornton touches it on back. Foisted in front. Oh, and a leaping try was made there by Paille to grab it off and try to put it down and play it.
It was a smart play by McQuaid, so he didn't turn the puck over.
Brought on by Glass. Flown to the corner, and McQuaid took the heavy hit that he knew was coming from Oreskovic. Malhotra reaches in. It's touched on a cross for a careful pass up to Gregory Campbell. Drop back and bashed back in by Thornton, and the careful stop by Luongo. Twisted around behind by Malhotra. More changes for Boston. Long toss is ahead and carried back on for a shot by Higgins that's blocked away by Thomas. Chip back up the boards by Ferentz. Red at the half boards, though, and it can be played back along by Malhotra. Kept by Bieksa and thrown to the corner. Without a stick is Boychuk, but he squibbed one on that is left behind, and here's Edler marching on. His shot is turned aside by Thomas. Another one off the stick of Thomas. Another drive is blocked off in front by Recchi. Another try went wide. It is Higgins holding there. Got it on for Kessler, but he couldn't pull the trigger on the shot, fanning on it. And so it's Recchi bringing it out and carefully backhanding it in. 7 shots this period for the Bruins. 11 shots for the Vancouver Canucks. Canucks, and here's Kessler just flying back in. Shoved it over for Alex Burrows. Burrows closed off by Ryder. Recovered on back to Bieksa. Drive! Pad stop Thomas. Rebound swept behind the defender Chara and wide of the cage. Right along, it's pushed by Daniel Sedin, and a penalty is coming up. They have drawn one. As you were suggesting, a power play late in the second period for Vancouver. Game 7, they are trailing the Bruins 2-0.
Penalty on Zdeno Chara, 33 and white, taking the body off of Ryan Kessler. I think that's a good hockey play, but it's the referee in the neutral zone that makes the call. I think he saw Dan O'Halloran. Maybe the legs got kicked out from under Ryan Kessler, which wasn't the case.
Power play sponsored by Bud Light. Here we go. That one ricocheted back down, and Ehrhoff will go back.
A lot of bouncing pucks right now. The building is extremely warm.
Power play for the Canucks, one for the last 23 against the Bruins. Kessler brings this back into the outside. Oh, and a rocket that was wide off Daniel Sedin. Looked toward Henrik, did not have enough control. Drops it to the outside to Kessler, back to Ehrhoff, then back over to Edler. Returns to Ehrhoff, but he could not stop the pass, and so Paille sends it back down.
Just heard Pierre talk about it. Very warm in the building. The puck is not going to slide. You got to be sure. Spin that puck over when you're making a pass.
Kessler in the path of that clearing attempt by Kelly. Given across now to Ehrhoff. Fires, and that went wide. Screening in front was Henrik Sedin.
Oh, that almost went up and over the glass. McQuaid was very fortunate there on that rolling puck, Eddie.
If it goes into the crowd, it'll delay a game.
2 3/4 minutes to go in the second period. Rattled on a round of bump on Marchand that came from Torres, then to the back at Salo. Salo holds and shoots one, and that blocked to the corner, and then it hopped off the corner glass up into the seats.
If you're Alain Vigneault, Pierre, do you think about using your timeout to give your number 1 unit an opportunity to breathe a little bit and draw it up? I mean, this is crucial time. I mean, this is a unit that just was out there for about a minute plus. You like quality more than quantity in this situation. I probably would have used my timeout in this situation with 43 seconds left to go on this power play.
I agree. You're not going to get many more opportunities with the power play, and no Chara on the ice. Remember that, Chara in the box.
Slugged along, and a tough play for Ehrhoff to make as it careens to Bergeron, who moves in. Bergeron protects, and down to the ice he goes. The puck wound up going into the net. It's 3-0. A shorthanded goal for Bergeron.
There's that bouncing puck you were talking about, Eddie. The puck's alive, and Bergeron establishes body position on Ehrhoff, and he eventually scores on the follow-through. A shorthanded goal for the Bruins against Luongo.
Face-off win by Gregory Campbell. Dennis Seidenberg fires this puck around the boards, and then you see Ehrhoff impede the progress of Patrice Bergeron. There was going to be a penalty on the play, and this puck follows through the slide of Patrice Bergeron, his second of Game 7, and it's a 3-0 lead for the Bruins.
They're going to review this, Eddie. If his hand pushes that in with a punching motion, it will be no goal, but I don't believe that's the case. That's a follow-through play with Ehrhoff taking him down. I don't see him punch that puck. Do you, Eddie or Doc?
You know what, Pierre? I want everybody to keep an eye on the right hand of Patrice Bergeron. He has hands on his stick as he's coming in to the shot. Now the shot will come. Watch the puck coming. Now stop it right here. Watch the hand there of Patrice Bergeron. Almost the right hand, the right back of the hand before he makes contact with Roberto Luongo. Very, very difficult to see from that angle in behind. I thought the overhead was the best look to see if there was contact, to what Pierre said, that punching motion of the right hand after being taken down. Right there, the right hand.
It's a goal. If there was no goal, there would still have been a penalty on Vancouver. The Canucks go back to the power play. Patrice Bergeron with a shorthanded goal, his second of these playoffs, his second goal of the night, and 6th of the playoffs. The hole becomes large. Higgins to draw with Campbell, who punched it across and hustled after it. Salo fed it through. Higgins handed back, and it is Bieksa with it. Rattled one around, and after it is Paye. They rock in, and it's reversed along by Seidenberg. Squibbed free for Johnny Boychuk. 120-footer. Slithers down and can be set up by Luongo.
We were talking right before that goal, the shorthanded goal by Patrice Bergeron. I really believe is that Alain Vigneault was seriously considering of using that timeout because he waited as long as he could to get the #1 unit out. They lose the faceoff, and the puck ends up in the back of the net.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with you, Eddie. They should have called a timeout there. They're not going to get very many opportunities like that, especially with Chara in the box.
They did not get a shot on that power play. And offside is called.
Well, great hustle by Patrice Bergeron. Boy, that's even a better look there with that right hand, that punching motion, Pierre, from Bergeron when he goes crashing in. And no chance for Roberto Luongo.
And if you're the goalie at the other end, you're like, woohoo, bring it. Timmy Thomas has a 3-0 lead going into the third period, potentially with 1 minute and 27 seconds to go.
Hoisted back to center and knocked down by Krejci and touched back in.
We'll take the headsets off right now and have a conversation with Pierre from here.
Hansen is checked off by Seidenberg. It is quiet, isn't it? To the outside, it's led on back to Tanev. Blast! Save Thomas. Rebound scooped along to Lucic by Bergeron. Lucic able to give it on for the return pass from Bergeron. The big man up the wing. Lucic dropped it on for Bergeron. In the midst of a change, the Bruins now. Lucic has Mark Recchi out nearby. Touched it on back for the settle down by Boychuk. He threw it back in from center, and so as Recchi is nearby, they blow the whistle on the offside.
How big is that stop by Zdeno Chara now that he made on Alex Burrows?
Got his pad on it. Oh, I guess it was his shin guard. Coming up in the Discover Intermission Report, Dan Patrick, Keith Jones, and Mike Milbury. Second period highlights. Each team sits in their locker room with just a period of regulation time left. Mike and Keith tell us what coaches Claude Julien and Alain Vigneault should be saying to their teams. That's ahead on the Discover Intermission Report. Played further back to Sammy Salo. Filtered on through, and it is pumped back in and wide of the cage, guarded by Thomas. Lifted along by Chara. Back up now for Michael Ryder. Burrows goes to work on him. Plenty of Bruins there, though. And Chara leads one that goes through Marchand and back down, and it will be an icing. U.S. Open Week continues tomorrow on Golf Channel. Get the latest updates and previews from Congressional with Live from the U.S. Open. Then will Phil Mickelson finally capture his first ever U.S. Open title? The U.S. Open begins tomorrow, 3 Eastern on NBC from Bethesda. Kessler on the draw with Kelly. What's going on? I heard an organ. It is Ryder, chased off by Bieksa, taken on by Kelly, and lobbed back out. Shoved back on and away from Tambellini, worked it back further. Ryder able to protect that one and just walk it on back and hand to Chara again. Seidenberg, who has 2 assists in this game, was the last to touch the puck. In that period, the Bruins had 8 shots. The Canucks had 13, 21-13 in the game, and Tim Thomas has gotten all 21. Bergeron and Marchand and Bergeron shorthanded. Those are the goal scorers through 40 minutes of play. Coming up, Dan Patrick, Keith Jones, and Mike Milbury are standing by to bring you the Discover Intermission Report right after these messages. Welcome back to the NHL Stanley Cup Final on NBC, presented by Geico. 3-0 Boston going into period 3. Pierre.
There's so many different storylines in a series like this. We're in Game 7, but the galvanizing moment for the Boston Bruins happened in Game number 3. Nathan Horton coming down the middle. Aaron Rome lights him up. Rome gets suspended for the rest of the series. Nathan Horton's out cold. He's made the trip here for Game 7. Here he is, squirting water from Boston onto the Vancouver ice. Hey, fellas, we won every game at home. Maybe this will make us feel like we're home. Nathan Horton here potentially to celebrate with his teammates.
Whatever you got to do to help.
Hey, this is the same building where they had the Lucky Looney in the ice for Canada when they beat the Americans in the gold medal game last year. A lot of strange things have happened on this ice surface.
Deflected out of play into the Vancouver bench.
I remember one being in Salt Lake City as well.
Correct. Same ice makers, Edzo.
And I'm really not sure how that was allowed to begin with on U.S. soil, but that's for another day.
I'm sure we'd have a different perspective if we had dual citizenship, but we do not.
I do.
Chara gives back over to Boychuk. Changing the subject. Boychuk hand passed it along, and it is picked up there by Higgins. Angled where Bieksa must play at center and angrily drubs it back in. And so it is set up by Tim Thomas.
Again, we talked about in the first period the aggressiveness of the defensemen for the Vancouver Canucks. The Bruins have to be aware of pinching defensemen, keeping plays alive offensively. Great hustle again by Brad Marchand to negate icing.
And down on Thomas. He sends it aside to Ferentz. Rattled back up and taken on and shoved across by Krejci to Peverley. Moving up with Lucic, and it's on his stick. Dropped it back off to no one in particular. Knifed away from Henrik Sedin right back to Lucic.
Got to be sure there if you're Lucic. Can't hope the guy's there. That puck's got to be down in the corner.
Lucic with it yet again. Fed it on now to Krejci. Krejci pivots to the outside, hands back to Chara. Shoveled one that is deflected high and wide. Knife back up the defensive boards and can be played by Daniel Sedin on out to Henrik. Captain of the Vancouver team. Led it on across for a drive that's deflected wide as Oreskevich let it go. Another shot is speared away by Thomas from the stick of Ehrhoff. Daniel Sedin's back pass fails as Seidenberg in the way. More of the same. Seidenberg touched it on to Krejci, and he nudges on now to Chara.
Boy, Hansen took a stick from Tim Thomas as he was skating through the crease. Looking to forecheck that loose puck.
He's fine. There's no blood.
Carried back ahead, and a pass is hooked across by LaPierre. Tanev able to fire it back in, and Thomas able to crush the boards to stop that one. Frickin' along near Michael Ryder. Roberts had, check that, Alberts had that one jabbed away, and it came all the way back to center. Malhotra goes back further and pushed it off Kelly, who got it back and sent it up for Sagan, who dubbed the shot. Sagan again peels to the outside. Got it on back to Kelly. Shoved it on angrily. He bangs his stick on the ice as he comes to the bench for a change. He wanted to finish off better than that. McQuaid played it back out again. 2 1/4 gone here in the third period. The deficit for the home team is 3. Bieksa dealt it back out. Thornton came up with it there and trickled it back on. Bieksa yet again. Circle to Edler. Swedish-born defenseman played it back ahead for the carry-on by Higgins. Higgins chased off, defended by Campbell. Around it went off the tip of the stick of Boychuk.
Little changing of lines by Alain Vigneault. Taking Burrows off the line with the Sedins, put him with Kessler.
A handover there for Higgins and a shot. Oh, and Thomas was able to stop that and paddled it away. Led onto the back. Edler with it there. Edler handed it over. Played back further to the point. Bieksa shovels one, and that one blocked away. Lifted on by Boychuk, popped on by Campbell. A 2-on-1 developing as Thornton drags it in. They try to hurry people back. Thornton with a blast that went wide of the short side. Came on back now to Chara at center. Booted on back further to Sean Thornton. He and Mark Recchi are the only two in either lineup tonight that have won the Stanley Cup before. Recchi twice, once with Pittsburgh, another time with Carolina, and Thornton in 07 with Anaheim. For everyone else, it's a new experience. Carried back on now by Marchand, who has one already. Led it on across. Bergeron holding and shooting one that is held by Luongo, who has to stop them all for his team to have a shot.
Well, we made mention of the collision in front of Tim Thomas. There's the butt end of the stick out, and Tim Thomas watching where David Krejci was going to move that puck, and Hansen just looked like he just skated right in to the butt end of the stick of that man right there, Tim Thomas.
He's trying to draw a penalty. You know that better than anybody else. That he's trying to make that look good and sell it to the officials.
But you wonder why the goaltender is out on top of his crease in that particular situation when the puck's behind him. He's running a little interference. There's no doubt about that. I don't think he meant to get the butt end of the stick there on the face of Hansen.
Rattled around behind by Ferentz and grabbed off and sped back on to Torres. Nice little finagle pass that came on to LaPierre. Blasted back in by Tambellini. Caberlet there, run into by LaPierre. Caberlet gets back to his feet hurriedly, though. And this is played on by Ehrhoff. Ehrhoff put that off a Bruins forechecking stick. The owner of that is Lucic. And curling on back now is Torres. Shoves one ahead, and the Bruins have a pretty good wall set up now.
This is the most animated I've ever heard the Boston Bruins bench. I've done a ton of their games this playoff season. They're all coaches on the bench now. Every single player's talking.
Krejci lobbed it back out.
Even their game 7 against Tampa, they weren't this animated.
And that game 0-0 for the longest time until Nathan Horton wins the game 1-0.
Flown back in deep. Icing touch-up, and back it will come near Luongo.
And Eddie, what we're seeing, you're talking about the wall. The Boston Bruins are turning the neutral zone into a quagmire. This has been vintage Boston Bruins hockey, an unbelievable road game, and now they're defensively responsible like they have been all year.
And when you have a 3-goal lead, you can really play to your strengths, and the Boston Bruins able to smother the middle of the ice and out-defend the Vancouver Canucks because they know, they don't need any more goals. You don't want to sit back.
Chara's blast was blocked wide, thrown back across by Daniel Sedin. So there is that temptation. That's why they cursed the 3-goal lead, right? Because there is that temptation to sit.
I believe that since the work stoppage, this is the toughest lead in hockey. It used to be the 2-goal because everybody would just clamp down and sit in the middle of the ice. And now I really believe it's 3 goals because the way power plays is so important in the game.
Henrik Sedin brings it on. Threw it across, and it was jabbed away as Thomas reached out and tumbling to the ice and just now getting back up and getting into the play as Hansen shaken up for the second time. Lobbed on back now, and it can be controlled carefully by Boychuk.
Hansen's got the penalty. He just drilled Ferentz from behind, and Ferentz's face went heavily into the ice, really heavily.
Kelly triples it by Sagan. It is touched, and it will be at least a minor and maybe more.
This is under the quality of, we saw him try to draw a penalty before. Eddie, watch Jannik Hansen right here.
Yeah, that is just a selfish, cheap penalty in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Right before that, Jannik Hansen took, I believe, a stick from Zdeno Chara. He went down. But Hansen comes back, and you can't do this. And he's trying to show the referee, Dan O'Halloran, but it doesn't matter. In this situation, this is not a time to get even. There's the stick by Chara. Clearly a high stick. Should have been a call. It was not. But then you skate back and take free rein on Andrew Ferentz. That can't happen.
That's just selfish. And that's also frustration. You're on home ice, you're down 3-0. Everybody's been pumping your tires. You're just frustrated. You can't believe it's coming at him like this.
First power play of the game for the Bruins. Both teams with a power play on the night. The one by the Canucks earlier was shotless. That was latter stage of the second period. The Bruins have had the better power play in this series. Another surprise for all of us who knew everything about these two teams before they came in. Everything in quotes. Bruin power play was the sore thumb. But it has been the stronger of the two. Played back in by Lucic. Around near Bergeron. And cleared back down.
If you're Boston, you can put this game out of reach. This isn't a time to just pass around the perimeter. You got to go through your reps, and you want this.
Krejci moves on. Twisted back by Recchi and regathered at center. Fans complaining that there should have been too many men on the ice.
Again, the frustration seeping in. Their emotions are really getting the best of them right now on the Vancouver side.
Malhotra played it back down, and Thomas with the careful block and turning it aside to Chara.
Vancouver, you're in a situation where you don't want to start cheating while you're shorthanded, but you might have to take a chance if you get an opportunity.
Beverly to Recchi to Ryder. Getting a piece of that was Luongo. Who knows how important that might be.
Good stop there. There was some room on the short side, and Michael Ryder, after a terrific play there by Mark Recchi. Beverly to Recchi. Now watch the save here up on the shoulder. Carrying that glove awfully low and get a great angle here.
Nice cross and drop. Beverly, Recchi, and then the quick release by Ryder. Hasn't Ryder been one of the more underappreciated players for the Bruins in this series, Ed Zone Doc? He's just been so solid.
He's been really good. There's been some games where he's just been able to dictate and use that big body and create and find pucks and do a great job of, not necessarily killing of time, but playing in the offensive zone with the high skill of it.
Beverly is all alone in front, and unable to get the pass to him was Ryder. Perhaps didn't see. I'm sure he was yelling, but it comes out in front again, and what have we here?
Pass,
A
Recchi
hand
to
pass.
Beverly, yeah. And that face-off will come outside. Mark Recchi batted it out of the air right onto the stick of Rich Beverly.
So to neutralize it will come Bergeron with 2 goals, Marchand with 1. There has never been a hat trick in a final Game 7. There have been a lot of those at 16.
There you see Recchi just batting that puck out of midair, doing a good job of keeping it alive, and referee Stephen Walkham right there to prevent the chance for Beverly.
They get these assignments on merit. Same for the linesmen, Jay Sherriz and Jean Morin tonight. Out of a large staff of over 80 officials. These are the last 4. 2 referees, 2 linesmen. Carried ahead now by Kelly. Waits and shoots one. Spiked wide by Edler. And around behind where Sagan protects. Gets back to his feet again on the defensive Edler. Taken on by Marchand. Marchand fed one in front that's blocked away by Luongo. LaPierre tried to touch it on, and Kelly sent it right back wide. 7 3/4 minutes gone in the 3rd period. 3 shots for the Bruins this period. Only 2 allowed to Vancouver. Ference marches back. Hands on now to Paille. Cannot work his way by. Brought in by Daniel Sedin. He's got Hansen. Backhander is held by Thomas, and then he is bumped into and goes down on his back. Play halted midway 3rd period. 3-0 in favor of Boston. U.S. Open week continues tomorrow on Golf Channel. Get the latest updates and previews from Congressional with Live from the U.S. Open. Then will Phil Mickelson finally capture his first ever U.S. Open title? The U.S. Open begins tomorrow, 3 Eastern on NBC.
For the Vancouver Canucks right now, the players are stoic, which is positive, but their coaches are overreacting to every little call, and they're really screaming at the officials, and I think for some reason, the players have lost a little bit of their train of thought because of that.
Remember Claude Julien was saying when Brad Marchand banged his stick on the ice near the glass when he was coming off on a shift and broke it, you distracted our whole team with that. And that didn't help us, and so he was chided for that.
Yeah, I think it's a fine line when your coach starts doing it, maybe out of the realm or the comfort zone that you're used to him, trying to jumpstart his team. And I'm a big believer of, look, leave the referees to the coach, and you guys just go out and play. And at this stage, it's very difficult. But you got to have that focus that's solely on one thing, and that's chipping away and getting the puck in the offensive zone.
Recchi to Krejci. Krejci the shot, and getting a piece of that was Luongo. Krejci hands it on back. Ference gives it across to Adam McQuaid, then played on to David Krejci again. The bouncer flown all the way in deep, and Salo to get it. Stanley Cup in the house. Will it be making a trip to David Krejci's Czech Republic? Milan Lucic's East Vancouver. Will that be a popular move? Bring it back here. Since the New Jersey Devils of 1995, teams have parceled out at least a day with the Cup. And even in '94 with the New York Rangers, it made its way to Belmont. Shot is shrugged away by Tim Thomas and golfed on back to center.
Picture with the Kentucky Derby winner Gopher Jim in '94, the Stanley Cup.
And allegedly the horse ate oats from it. Thrown on through to center. It jet skied with Steve Yzerman. It has been in Mario Lemieux's swimming pool a couple of times. It's all a part of the party and celebration for the team that wins it. Boston ahead 3-0 in Game 7. Hansen toe drag and a shot trapped by Thomas. It squirted loose, but it's tipped right back to him again by Recchi. Past the halfway point of the third period. 3-0 in favor of the Bruins. Welcome back. The NHL coverage presented by Geico. Welcome back to Vancouver. Next week, it's a talent doubleheader. 2 new episodes of America's Got Talent. Tuesday at 8, 7 Central, and Wednesday, 9, 8 Central on NBC. Towel power is being flashed on the circular message board underneath the scoreboard, and they are responding as Edler threw one that ricocheted along, and Krejci is able to backhand one that kicked on back for a quick pass, and a shot that's wide from Daniel Sedin.
Time to start taking chances if you're the Vancouver Canucks.
Fed on now for Burrows, and he couldn't, short-sighted by Thomas. And chipped on where it must be regathered at center by Burrows. In football terms, it's everybody blitzes but the water boy. Thrown in by Edler and grabbed off and held by Thomas. Down to the ice is Burrows.
Well, Burrows going hard to the net and gets upended a little bit and trying to sell a call. That's not going to happen.
And as Burrows goes to the bench, Mark Recchi says, finish this thing up right. Don't be doing that. And now Brad Marchand and Burrows both jawing at one another.
Quick shot by Higgins is turned aside by the pad of Thomas. And this one squipped back to center ice. Deflected by a stick, carried back on by Kessler. Here's Kessler breezing along. Oh, and he tried to pull that forehand short side, and Thomas said no. Off the tip of the stick of Ferentz, under 9 minutes to go, third period. Going back to get it is Salo. Off of Hansen and back down. Icing touch-up. Only Verizon gives you more Stanley Cup playoffs hockey than ever before with the NHL Game Center Premium app. Text NHL to 8603 to download now.
Well, Ryan Kessler going after Andrew Ferentz in those left wing corners, takes the run, gets a piece enough, but I think Ryan Kessler has had one outstanding game here in Game 7.
Zdeno Chara played it back in carefully. Krejci is there, knifed away from Lucic. Twisting along Daniel Sedin. Nice control by his twin brother Henrik as he reached the line. We're going to get a penalty call coming up. The call is a hook. I did not see in which direction the referee was going on that one.
It was Milan Lucic that was on the back check. I actually liked the way that he got in behind. He had one hand on his stick. Oh, yeah, right there, the initial hook right around the hands. Watch this, right in there. Just enough.
It's a zero tolerance call at a tough time in the game for Milan Lucic. But that all started because of a bad pitch by Dennis Seidenberg. He can't be pitching down there. That deviates from the plan, especially when you have Tyler Seguin on the ice.
Second power play of the night for Vancouver. Big shot by Ehrhoff is booted back out again by Thomas. Ehrhoff able to keep play alive. Another shot, and Thomas got a piece of that one. Thrown off by Chara and off of Ehrhoff and back down. On the one earlier power play, the Canucks were shotless. The Bruins were not, as they scored a shorthanded goal, courtesy of Bergeron. Off of Daniel Sedin. Seidenberg gets help from Campbell. Rattled it on around, it is controlled there, and nicely poked along and then held back was Paille, who recovers and slugs it back in.
Danny Pye and Gregory Campbell. We talked about Ryder being an unsung hero. Those guys have been spectacular penalty killing.
Ehrhoff gives it across. Fanning on it and then trying again was Higgins. Ehrhoff twisted in front, guided away by Thomas. Loose puck in front. Higgins up with it there. Hands it on back to Bieksa. Led over to Daniel Sedin. His shot deflected wide. Very hard to find a lane to shoot at. Bieksa had that one hooked back out again by Marchand. And at center, pulled free by Bergeron. He's got Marchand up the wing, got it to him, and he kicked to control, and it hopped off the outside of the cage.
The Vancouver defensemen are out of gas. They're just losing every race right now, Edzo and Doc. You can see the wear and tear has broken them down.
Burrows able to step ahead with this one. Burrows peels off to the outside. Just out-dueled by Peverley. Rattled right back in again. Oh, what a collision that time on Burrows by Seidenberg.
I don't know if the puck was around. Pierre had a real good look at it. It was on the other side.
This time it's Higgins and Seidenberg. Led to the back. Bieksa hurries a shot. Cut off by Chara in front. Zdeno Chara with 8 seconds left on the kill. Played it back in. First one back there will be Campbell. And it is played by Luongo on through to Bieksa. Kevin Bieksa fired it right back ahead. It can be carried up and blasted in by Tanev. Manny Malhotra there dueling with Lucic. Played around behind and wanting to dart free with it. Too early was Hansen. Tanev gave it on back to him though. Hansen with a blast turned aside by Thomas. Full strength action here with 6 minutes and 5 seconds to go in the third. You will get to see a Conn Smythe most valuable player to his team in the playoff presentation and the presentation of the Stanley Cup. Hansen a shot. That was off of Thomas, who recovered the cover. Lots of crunching tonight. There was one of them. On Alex Burrows, delighting a lot of people in Boston who remember the bite.
His team's leading 3-0, 5:51 to go in Game 7. He's telling the guys, get pucks in deep, don't turn it over, make sure you're back, and the number one thing, don't retaliate from plays like this. Yannick Hansen, that is a cheap shot right into the midsection of Adam McQuaid. So the coach made his point during the last TV timeout. No retaliation, back, enough bodies to protect Thomas, no turnovers, pucks deep.
The last man to coach a Stanley Cup championship team inside Canada was Jacques Demers with the Montreal Canadiens of '93. He wound up going to the St. Louis Blues for his first NHL coaching job, and a player went the other way in return. Claude Julien. Henrik Sedin goes in on this draw. And it's played along behind where in some traffic it's Seidenberg. Squibb back up the boards, and it's Kelly lifting it back out. Meaningful silence here. 5:35 separating. A shot by Bergeron on that steal went off of Luongo, who has gotten a piece of just about everything that has come since the shorthanded goal by Bergeron, which was unconventional. To the back it comes to Seidenberg, ripped across, Chara shot, and that one cut off. And it's all Boston on the offensive here. Started right back out, but trouble just getting it to settle down. Burrows tries to get through Recchi. Burrows able to bring it right back again. Alex Burrows delays and then plays it on back. Trying to tow it up was Edler, but he has been just so limited. It is a carnage factor by now in game 107.
Yeah, tough to make plays when you're playing one-handed, and Brad Marchand looked like a helicopter there. He got deked out of his jock strap and then was able to save the play by spinning that stick around.
I also think guys like Lucic and Brad Marchand and the physical duress they put on the Vancouver defense, the injury to Danny Hamhuis, the suspension to Aaron Rome, that broke the Vancouver Canucks down on this quick turnaround from Game 6. They haven't been the same coming out of their own zone, and they've struggled deep in their own zone.
Won the first 2 games in this series, close games, 1-0, 3-2, Vancouver up 2-0. Soft goals given up by Roberto Luongo, and the power play went missing for the majority of this series. You got to tip your helmet to the Boston Bruins, but I think those 2 things, what you said, Pierre, really changed the momentum in this series.
Higgins denied as he tried to get to the front by the tight checking Chris Kelly. Ryder tried to poke it on through. No luck there. Taken along by Hansen. Around in front. Save Thomas. Point blank on Hansen. And it's angled back out again by Kelly. To the last 4:05 of regulation time. Walk back ahead by Higgins. Thrown on a cross, and that directed to the corner by Chara. Hooked along now for Peverley. And a 2-on-1. Krejci moving up with Lucic. Krejci holds to Lucic. And he couldn't pull the trigger.
I think you got to get the goaltender out if you're Alain Vigneault and the Vancouver Canucks. Coming down to 3.5. You're down by 3. You got to get Luongo for the extra attacker.
He was looking over at the bench, it seemed, just now as you were mentioning that. This one floated back down, and Thomas will just block that aside. Going to get it is Tambellini, though. Tambellini led it. Bieksa shot it, and it's blocked in front by Thomas. That becomes shot number 35 of the game for the Canucks, and Thomas has gotten them all. Signal on. He's gliding out now to the hash marks, and he comes to the bench. Down by 3. The net is empty with a little over 3 minutes to go. Here's Burrows to the outside, and that one cut off by Mark Recchi. Recchi flew one to center. It went away from Salo. But gliding back again is Marchand trying to cut off the icing. And he does. Henrik Sedin lobbed it on out. Burrows kicked it on back. The net's still empty. Dropping back as Bieksa as a goalie. Marchand, the shot. He scores! Marchand, second goal of the night. Fourth for the Bruins.
Well, Patrice Bergeron takes the puck away from Alex Burrows. Kevin Bieksa, the only line of defense, and Marchand puts it into the empty net.
This was 1972. Bobby Orr, a part of a championship celebration with Jerry Cheevers and the rest. The Stanley Cup was skated around Madison Square Garden in New York by John Busick. In the last 32 years, there will have been only 3 teams to win a Game 7 on the road and win a championship at the same time. These Bruins, the Pittsburgh Penguins of 2009, and Kent Tekulve closing for the Pirates in 1979 against the Baltimore Orioles. All of those teams black and gold. Zdeno Chara flipped it along, escaped onto center, and is hooked on back deeper by Malhotra. 2:05 to go. Brought on by Manny Malhotra, one of the inspirational leaders of this Vancouver team. Sean Thornton saw that careen back.
I would anticipate the elder statesman on this team for the Boston Bruins, Mark Recchi, to get maybe one more shift in this Game 7, a Stanley Cup final. No better feeling. And looking at the clock, realizing what's going to be happening in 1 minute and 44 seconds, and the hooks continue. A lot of yelling. A lot of patting on the head. No better pile to be in, except for the one that the Boston Bruins are going to be in 1 minute and 35 seconds.
Alberts gave it on a cross in the last 90. Daniel Sedin flopped one further. Hook to the corner to the left. And then out in front a shot, and that one is blocked in front. Carried back out by Krejci and lobbed on. Lucic there. Luongo is back in the cage. Lucic all alone. Getting a piece of it was Luongo. And one more salute of Lou from the crowd here that remains. Seidenberg a shot, and that deflected off him wide. And the announcement. Kessler trying to rag it through. Cannot get it through Seidenberg. 87th year. First American-based NHL team. They played through a temporary injury to the hero tonight, Patrice Bergeron. A longer-term injury to a man with a Game 7 overtime winner against Montreal, Nathan Horton. Mark Recchi is out for the final shift of his career. 30.4 to go. 37 shots to 21 Vancouver. It is a city that just loves its history because it's been such a part of it. Earlier, we saw a two-time Cup winner, Milt Schmidt, wave a flag before Game 6. And a two-time Cup winner, Bobby Orr, before Game 4. And when they left Boston for here, a leather lung fan, and they have a few in Boston, yelled, "We didn't lose to the British, and we're not going to lose to British Columbia." Hansen gave it across with 15 to go. Despite that adversity, they followed their coach to the high road, and the high road is the road to the Cup. No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup. And they pour on to celebrate with Tim Thomas, their heroic goaltender. All of the statistics that are poured forth over the span of 15 days of a Stanley Cup final favored Vancouver. Just the raw percentages. They took Game 1, then Games 1 and 2, and the numbers got higher. A 2-1 series lead, 84% of the time the team ahead wins. A Game 5 after a split of the first 4 at 71%. 3-2 series lead as they had 80%. But it is played by humans with all kinds of emotion and not by stats.
And there's Nathan Horton in the hat already, the Stanley Cup championship hat, hugging Milan Lucic. And the reaction from Ryan Kessler, Livonia, Michigan. Tough to describe that feeling.
We have seen tears earlier in this playoff year from Dwayne Rollison of Tampa Bay, Henrik Lundqvist of the New York Rangers. You put so much of your heart into it, it is an absence. The Canucks salute their fans this one last time.
How about General Manager Peter Chiarelli? Doc wins a Stanley Cup and also part owner of the Dubuque Fighting Saints of the USHL, which won the Clark Cup this year as well.
It will be interesting for us to see the meeting of Patrice Bergeron and Alex Burrows and the meeting of the two goaltenders. So much has been talked about from both of them. Tim Thomas and Roberto Luongo, you see there. Thomas will be one of the last to go through this line. And Luongo is one of the first.
Great job. Series, Ryan, man. Way to work. Good job. Great series. Great series. Good job, Albie. Thanks, man. Good job. Hell of a series. Yeah. Thanks. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Hey, great year, great everything. I think you did a great goal.
They will see each other in Las Vegas. Both are nominated for Best Goal.
Nathan Horton, Mark Recchi, goaltending coach Bob Asenza, who's done a terrific job with Tuukka Rask and Tim Thomas.
What a way to go out for Mark Recchi. It's always interesting to hear Pierre's interviews with Tim Thomas, a man who thinks usually before he speaks. I have a feeling he's going to be pretty quick with all of this, but let's listen.
Thanks so much, Doc. Peaks, valleys, you're at the top of the NHL mountain. How's the view?
It feels great. You know, it still hasn't kicked in, if you want to be, if I'm completely honest. I can't believe it's over. Like, we've had our battle meter up so high for so long that I feel like we're just moving on to the next series or something.
You came in here, you lost 3 games, deciding Game 7. What was the difference in Game 7?
I think, you know, the physical work that we'd done throughout the whole series added up, and you know, being the last game, we didn't save anything, and we used that physicality again, and I think that was the difference.
Was Aaron Rome hit on Nathan Horton a galvanizing moment for your group?
Well, kind of. I mean, that was an important turning point, you know. I don't really know. I haven't thought that one through enough.
Let me ask you about Roberto Luongo. You went through the line. Obviously, there were some things said during the series. What did he say to you in the line?
I don't remember. I know I told him that he's a great goalie, and I said, I want you to know I think you're a great goalie. Somehow he must have took offense. I hadn't said anything really positive, but I hadn't said anything negative either. And, you know, part of that was the tactics.
You won 3 Game 7s. Game 7 against Montreal in overtime. 1-0 over Tampa in the conference final. Now a Game 7 here. Have you cemented your position in terms of where you thought you'd be when you started out as a young man in Flint, Michigan?
I think I've went even further than I thought. Yeah, you know, and I never envisioned 3 Game 7s in 1 playoff series and still being able to come up on top.
Congratulations on an unbelievable ride, Tim. Enjoy the view.
Thank you very much.
Is he the MVP? Let's learn.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we direct your attention to ice level for the presentation of the Conn Smythe Trophy to the 2011 Stanley Cup Playoffs Most Valuable Player.
Congratulations to 2 great teams, the Boston Bruins and Vancouver Canucks, on a terrific Stanley Cup final. The winner of the Conn Smythe Trophy, Tim Thomas.
He said midway in the playoffs, any success I have ever had has come from working hard. And here's a little bit more with the Conn Smythe Trophy. 39 different players have had it. Tim Thomas becomes the 15th time that it has been taken by a goaltender.
Back-to-back college hockey players winning the Conn Smythe MVP trophy. Of course, last year, Jonathan Toews with the Chicago Blackhawks attended North Dakota. Tim Thomas, the MVP of the Stanley Cup final, was a goaltender at the University of Vermont.
It is a part of growing legend that when Marty St. Louis brought the Stanley Cup to the University of Vermont, he invited a lot of his former teammates back. Tim Thomas had not even begun to fashion an NHL career, but even then he did not touch it.
The Stanley Cup.
They sure do make it look nice, don't they? White glove care has occurred ever since 1994. After the Rangers won it, they decided they ought to take a little more care of it. It got banged around a little bit in the celebrating, as has happened sometimes since, but they are always looking.
First of all, let's congratulate Vancouver on a terrific season. The Boston Bruins had to win 3 Game 7s to get the Stanley Cup. What an incredible playoff run. Congratulations to Jeremy Jacobs, Cam Neely, Peter Chiarelli, and Claude Julien, the city of Boston, the Bruins fans, and most importantly, the Bruins players. Great job. Zdeno Chara, it's my honor to present you with the Stanley Cup.
He comes forward to receive the cup, and this will undoubtedly be the highest that it's ever been held. Who will be the first to receive it from Chara?
Got to be Mark Recchi.
Third time is not a charm, it's a reward for a long and productive career. 60 playoff goals for Mark Recchi and 3 titles.
What a way to go out.
Patrice Bergeron missed a couple of games.
1 and 2 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Got hurt in Game 4 in that sweep over the Philadelphia Flyers. Two goals here in Game 7. And Tim Thomas. Headlines tomorrow, Doc, in Boston. Tim Thomas, tremendously tremendous.
Well, he can touch it now and he can carry it around, and he's going for a skate with it.
Absolutely.
As a youth, a door-to-door salesman in Davison, Michigan. Bought cars, rebuilt them. His family was in that business. He decided, I'll be the first guy to go to college, and he did it Vermont. And now it's a guy whose brother held this aloft in '06. That was František Kaberle. This is Tomas Kaberle having it now. Moves on quickly to Andrew Ferentz. His brother Brad would have loved to have had this moment, but he gets to see him have it from perhaps here or perhaps back in Calgary watching on television.
Here comes Sean Thornton. We heard Mike Milbury and Keith Jones, along with Dan Patrick, talk about the addition of Sean Thornton into the lineup for Game 3 back in Boston. Experience, winner of the Stanley Cup with Anaheim, energy, intimidation. Dennis Seidenberg. Michael Ryder.
It is too much a superstition to really plot this out before you win it, right? But it became kind of obvious to you that the first handoff was going to be Recchi. Now, the rest of this is spontaneous. We don't know how well planned it is, but whoever gets it is waiting and ready to raise it. We continue to watch the celebration as Pierre talks with Mark Recchi.
1991 in Pittsburgh, 06 in Carolina, 2011 in Boston.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Well, I'm doing amazing, man. What a feeling this is. What a great group of guys. No matter what happened tonight, this is one of the best groups I've ever played with. This is a great way to go out on top for me. I've had a hell of a run, and I can't thank these guys enough for me.
What was the turning point in the series, Mark?
You know what? Game 6 was a turning point. We came out, we played a hell of a game. We knew we just needed to play one game. When we have our backs against the wall, we play our best hockey, and we did it in Game 6 and 7.
What was the difference in Game 7? Because clearly you weren't having a lot of success here. What turned it around for you in 7? Because you dominated them in 7.
Yeah, well, we got the first goal, and we knew that was going to be important coming here, and then we just kept on. You know, we just played really tight and played great defensively. If they got any chances, Timmy was there, and it was scary how incredible year he had.
Can you rank the cups where this one goes?
This is my, this is it for me. So they're all special, and they all mean the same to me. It's just, it's kind of nice when this is the last one. You're going out on top.
We've run the trail together for a long time.
Yes, we have.
Congratulations.
Thank you, buddy.
I'm so proud of you, Mark.
91, we got her, baby.
Doc, back to you.
The episodes in life that so many years in memory are often measured in fleeting moments as they happen. Written following the winning of a championship by a writer named Steve Summers in 1988 in Hershey, Pennsylvania. They've only had this cup for less than 10 minutes. They're going to remember every experience in the next 10 for the rest of their lives.
And the hometown boy, Milan Lucic. And a little bit earlier, Doc, we saw Gregory Campbell hoist the Stanley Cup, beating the Vancouver Canucks. His dad, back in 1994, was an assistant coach with the New York Rangers. And he did the same thing against the Vancouver Canucks. Of course, Coley Campbell, the director of hockey operations right now for the National Hockey League.
Some closing thoughts from Dan, Keith, and Mike, gentlemen.
All right, Doc, we're watching these guys parade the cup around here, and as Doc was saying, it's not scripted, but it feels like it is. This seemed like a team of destiny. What happened in the Montreal series, the Tampa series, here we are, another Game 7 with the Bruins, and they come out victorious.
I don't know if the turning point was where Mark Recchi said it was. I thought it was Game 2, Thornton's insertion in the lineup, and at the end of that first period, when Vancouver was banging on Boston's door to try to make it 3-0 in the series, somebody in that locker room, word on the street has it, Zdeno Chara stood up and said, time to act like men, time to play it, time to win it for Nathan Horton. For me, that was the turning point. For the Vancouver Canucks, Daniel and Henrik Sedin have to look in the mirror all summer long. They had very few points in this series. In fact, 1 from Henrik, 4 from Daniel. 3 of those points were in a meaningless situation, and Ryan Kessler, 1 assist. Roberto Luongo, he's going to face demons as well.
And let's give Claude Julien the credit that he deserves. Yeah. Much maligned. Had he lost in Game 7, Round 1 against Montreal, he would not have been the coach of the Boston Bruins next year. He is now a Stanley Cup champion head coach.
Had a feel of Marc-Andre Fleury, I think, with Tim Thomas, with what happened in this series, what happened against Pittsburgh and Detroit with his play, and certainly deserves to be mentioned up there with anything we've seen from Brodeur and Roy and Grant Fuhr. This is as good as we've seen a goalie.
It is, and I've had the luxury of seeing it, covering him all year long. This was remarkable to take. Just keep in mind, this guy did not start the year as the #1 goaltender for the Boston Bruins.
798 saves in the postseason, including 238 saves here in the final, both records. Been a pleasure working with Mike, Jonesy. Doc, back to you.
And Claude Julien will raise the cup with hands that once fought Dave Hansen, who later starred in Slapshot. The footnote not of the day, but at any rate. Mr. Olczyk, your thought.
There you go back to round 1, and I think that's really where to turn around for the Boston Bruins. Down 0-2, round 1, lose both games at home. They win Game 7 in OT. And here they are down 0-2 to start the Stanley Cup final. They win Game 7 on the road. Unbelievable performance. Congratulations to the entire organization of the Boston Bruins.
Claude Julien said during this series, it is not what is said, it is what is done. They are celebrating what is now done. For a wrap-up of tonight's action, a look back at the series and more on this year's Stanley Cup champion, head to Versus following tonight's coverage for the Hockey Central postgame show presented by Bud Light. U.S. Open Week continues tomorrow on Golf Channel. Get the latest updates and previews with Live from the U.S. Open. And can Phil Mickelson get his congressional act together and capture his first ever U.S. Open title? The U.S. Open begins tomorrow, 3 Eastern on NBC. Coming up next, except on the West Coast, it's your local news, followed by an all-new Tonight Show with Jay Leno and special guest Blake Shelton from NBC's new hit show, The Voice. We thank you so much for watching this exciting hockey as it's unfolded during these last 8 weeks of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Congratulations to the Stanley Cup champions, but also the 400 athletes who competed so hard in these 4 rounds. For Eddie Olczyk, Pierre Maguire, Mike Milbury, Keith Jones, Dan Patrick, and our gang that will be following through on the postgame show from Versus. Doc Emmerich saying goodnight from Vancouver. Only 110 days to the opening of another hockey season. Have a wonderful summer. You've been watching the NHL Stanley Cup Final on NBC, presented by Geico, part of NBC Sports Championship season.